Hi everyone, I'm going to get started. Thank you all for being here. Today we're going to talk about putting yourself on screen, and I was so excited to find this gift, which I'm very into, so I hope you all can enjoy it. But I don't think most of us have met, so I want to introduce myself. My name is Maya. I am a technologist, and I've heard a lot of different words used to describe the type of thing I do before, anything from software artist to creative technologist, but I like the word technologist because it's very vague, so it encapsulates a lot of potential things that I do, but at the core, I write code and work with technology to make a lot of different projects. So currently, I'm in residency at the Google Creative Lab. I'm working on a lot of prototypes and iterating, but also doing a lot of things like UX design and graphic design and concept work and those kinds of things. But also, in addition to that, I am a very enthusiastic but non-professional dancer. And so I kind of split my time between work where I'm coding a lot, and then I also take a lot of dance classes during the week, which is super fun to me. It's like one of my favorite things in the world. So I'm going to start off by talking about literally putting yourself on screen. And this has been something that I've been really interested in for a long time because as this coder, dancer, hybrid person, I'm really interested in the ways that the body can manifest on screen and how you can translate your physical presence in the real world to the digital screen, which is the medium that I'm mostly working on. And start off, this is from the movie 8th grade, if you've seen it, but I just want to point out that when I'm talking about literally putting yourself on screen today, I don't mean exactly this type of putting yourself on screen, which is super easy to do nowadays with cameras and cell phones. You can simply just take a photo, post it, upload it, that kind of thing. But I'm more interested in the way that a person can turn themselves into pixels, and as a creative technologist, looking at how I can use the body as a mode of interaction by putting it onto the screen in which I'm working on. So rather than just an actual image of myself, how can I use my body in conjunction with the screen and allow this program to become somewhat of an extension of myself? So a lot of times when we talk about humans as analogous to computers, we talk a lot about the human mind being analogous to a machine. But there's a philosopher, his name is Hubert Dreyfus, and he works a lot and writes about and taught about a lot in artificial intelligence, and he has a book called What Computers Can't Do. But he says, what distinguishes persons from machines, no matter how cleverly constructed, is not a detached, universal, immaterial soul, but an involved, situated, material body. And this is something that's really interesting to me as a dancer who works a lot with disciplining their body and focusing on how I can control how it moves, that it's something that so distinctly distinguishes us from the machines that we're working with. And I'm interested in the ways that the machine and the body can work together, even though they are made up of such different things. How can we use these in conjunction to create work that incorporates both capabilities? So I'm going to start off by talking about a project I did this past year. This grew out of my interest in music visualization, and I think of dance as a form of human music visualization. So whenever I'm dancing and I'm listening to music, I'm interpreting the sounds with my body in the way that I move. But I also was recently very interested in graphical music visualization. So how does a computer hear sounds and interpret that as data, and then can reconstruct that into visuals? And so I was doing both of these things simultaneously, but I started to think about in what way could I actually have these two pieces interact to create this hybrid form of both dance, which is human music visualization, and then the machine's mode of music visualization. So I'm going to play you this video. screen to explore different aspects of it. But this has been a really exciting process for me because I think the body is something that we don't always think as working in harmony with the computer, but there are lots of ways that we're able to play around with that and try to create relationships that do feel good and like positive experiences with our machines and the work that we create with them. But all of this also got me thinking about, I'm doing all this work where I'm physically putting my presence on screen, like, literally me seeing myself on the computer. But it also got me thinking about figuratively putting myself on screen. So for example, all of these projects and all the sketches I just showed with the books, I will post on my Instagram or I'll put them on my website, and it's kind of this representation of myself on the screen. And so beyond our physical body, we're always putting ourselves on screen all the time with the words that we write, the photos that we post, our actions online are these abstract parts of ourselves that are appearing not only now on our own screens, but on other people's screens who are able to access that once we're online. And this got me thinking of this Shirley Chisholm quote, which she was the first African-American woman in Congress in America, and she said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. And I really love this quote because in the way that it relates to the internet, because as I'm sure we all know, tech has been historically, like Congress, pretty non-diverse. And I am so excited about tools like the internet and processing, which is open source and free online, because to me, at least in my journey, those have been like my folding chair. I never initially expected to go into computer science or CS, and I never felt like anyone was expecting me to or inviting me to, but instead I felt like my process of finding computer science and coding and creative tech was more of me kind of inserting myself into it using these tools that were available to me. And so that's why I think these tools are so powerful, because they give people the opportunity to create and share their work. And so the process of me figuratively putting myself on screen and inserting myself on screen has been really special in that way, because I feel like it's like my way of bringing myself to the table, regardless of what anyone else is asking for. And so I want to leave with 3 main points about figuratively putting yourself on screen that I have become really important to me as a part of this community. And I know that the process of putting yourself on screen, at least for me, is often super scary in that, I make something and I think I want to post it on my website or on an Instagram account, whatever, and I think, oh, is this stupid? Are people going to think this was super easy to code and why did she even post this? Or when I'm posting dance videos, I worry, oh, is someone going to think this isn't that good? And so I still hesitate all the time, but putting your work out there is not only a way for you to share it with other people, but at the same time, it's, to quote something that my younger sibling always reminds me of, which I think is so important, it's a way of being your own representation. And so in this community, in technology, often the people that you see, they may not look like you, or they may not feel like people you can relate to or empathize with. But by putting yourself on screen, you're giving the opportunity for other people to see your work, and maybe they'll be able to relate to you. And they'll be able to see, hey, they're doing this super cool thing, and if they're doing it, I could totally do it too. And that's something for me, especially within the processing community, everyone was so welcoming and so encouraging, and I found people that I could relate to in the community. That was an important part of me getting involved into this whole new media realm. And so not only creating things, but sharing things, I think, has become a really important part of my practice, and I encourage everyone to do it too, even though I understand that it can be really scary. Second is, if you like a person's work, totally let them know. And so this is more of putting yourself on specifically someone else's screen, whether that's sending them an email or a message on a social media platform, but everyone is always excited to engage and talk about work if they're putting it out there. And in my journey, lots of doors have been open to me because I was interested in what someone was doing. I thought the work that they were doing was super cool, and I just decided to reach out, and you really have nothing to lose. I mean, worst case, they might not answer, but that's what was happening anyway before. And so I really encourage you also to don't be afraid to put yourself on that person's screen that you admire and respect, because most likely they'll be excited to engage with you and talk with you, and at least they're going to be flattered to hear that you respected the types of things that they were doing. And finally, to go back to that initial quote, not only, I think it's great that we have these tools that act as sort of analogies for the folding chair, where we are able to have a platform to put ourselves out there and put our stuff online, but at the same time, especially in communities like this, I think it's really important to also, once you feel like you have a seat at the table, to also give seats to other people at the table, so they don't feel like they have to bring their own folding chairs, you know, they have a seat already set aside for them. And especially in technology, it can feel really intimidating and scary, like everyone always knows more than you. I know that's something that I've often felt working in this realm, but by having people say, you know, hey, no matter what level you're at, you're totally welcome, you can be here, everyone has to start somewhere, that kind of rhetoric has really helped me grow and evolve in this community, and I think processing day to day, and also outside of that is something always important to keep in mind. You know, not only you being able to make your way to the table, but also once you get there, being able to share the table and give seats to other people. So I'm really excited about the idea of putting yourself on screen and this other GIF I found too, both literally and figuratively. And I really encourage all of you to explore both, you know, the process of using your body in any works that you create, using things like processing and P5 and Connect and PostNet, but also just being confident in yourself and your work and not being afraid to share things just because you're worried of what people will think or there's questions you have in your head. It's always great to be able to put stuff out there, and it's really inspiring to see all different people from the community sharing their work online, and that's a part of the processing community that to me makes it really special. So thank you all for coming. I wanted to leave a little bit of time if anyone has any questions about anything I mentioned or any work or anything else at all. You can find me on the internet. That's my website, and those are my 2 Instagram handles. So, thank you.
You're talking about how events were being recognized when you were dancing.
Yeah.
So, can you define those events yourself? Are they built into the
Yeah.
library?
Yeah, totally. So the way that most of the I want to be able to describe this as I was playing, but I think the sound wasn't right. But so what was happening in some of those, for example, is the one where I was manipulating things like pushing it right and left with my hands. I was able to, the Connect I was using was able to sense where my body was, and it does depth sensing. So for example, if I'm in this long space, but I'm up there and I'm the closest thing to the Connect camera, it will understand that that is something to differentiate that's different from the wall. So it's able to pick up my contour really well. And then if I draw a box around all of those points, I can tell what is the rightmost and what is the leftmost points. And so then I'm able to say, okay, I want, you know, like this box, I want it to only close around the right and leftmost points of me, so I can kind of encapsulate myself in that way. And so those events I was talking about with the body were things that I just decided and wrote the code to make it respond to that specifically. They weren't necessarily programmed in, but what it did have, it was able to detect that box shape, and so I was able to layer on top of that interactions that I wanted based on knowing that information about where the person was. Yeah?
What's it like working at Google Creative Lab? How do you pick the projects that you work on? Is it like self-directed, or do you get guidance from other people? Just curious about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a combination of both. I feel like I do have a lot of creative agency, and then I get to voice ideas, and those ideas are heard, but it's a combination of whatever the lab is interested in working on in that time, and also what you are interested in working on. So I think, you know, if there's a project that you hear about and that sounds something like you would really like to work on, you can easily ask to be on that, and people are excited to have you become part of the group. We do lots of sessions that are like Spark sessions, where we just come up with tons and tons of ideas of things that could potentially live, and then slowly narrow it down to projects we would actually make. And so that's kind of more bottom up, and then we all are just thinking about some ideas, but also at the same time, sometimes the brief is more depending on what is asked of the lab. So it's a balance of the two, I think. Yeah.
Have you done anything with actual like live dance performance that incorporates this kind of technology?
Yeah, I would love to. I haven't I haven't yet. The Via Body piece, it was an installation that was up at a gallery at my school. So people could interact with all those visualizations that you saw when they came to the installation in real time, but I wasn't performing. It was just that anyone could kind of enter the space and do it themselves. But that is something that I am excited about doing, hopefully.
Have you foreseen in thinking about it, like what some of the like obstacles or complications might be in trying to do that?
Yeah, I think from a performance perspective, obviously it only happens once, and that's something that's very different than, I mean, I filmed those videos so many times, you know, because sometimes I would think the visualization didn't look right, and I would want to edit the code and then refilm the screen grab, or I decided that I didn't like the way I was dancing in that part, so I'd redo it over and over and over to be able to reach that core end product. So in live performance, I think a big obstacle would be being comfortable enough, both with the way the technology is working, because I can't, you know, be coding things and dancing at the same time, but also with the movement and how we interact to be able to have kind of that single moment that would be a performance. And also something I think a lot about with dance and live performance is me incorporating technology, something that a human could do, like behind the curtain, kind of. And so I'm definitely most interested in if I eventually do live performances that incorporate technology in a way that someone behind the scenes could never do. So thinking about in what ways can you use it that is different from, you know, someone could see you do something and press a button that are specifics to the capabilities of technology. Yeah?
You said you wrote the code for the visualization algorithm, or did you use a module?
For the Via Body piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was using the processing music library, and I wrote the code for the visualizations, all of them, but I was just analyzing the music using that library, so extracting like the FFT or the amplitude.
So you wrote the algorithm for what the boundaries of your body would be?
For the contours of my body?
Yeah.
That was it. So that was basically, I would get back a feed from the Connect that was binary in color, so I set a threshold that whatever is above this threshold, I want that to appear white, and then everything else would be black. And so once I had that information, I was able to layer on top of that using OpenCV, find the contour in that image. And the Connect gave back a pretty clear image when I was working with a lot of depth in a big space. So I was able to use OpenCV to draw that clear contour around the figure. So it was a combination of the Connect image that was being given back, and then also the OpenCV library, which is able to tell me exactly where the person is and draw that contour around. And then I was able to kind of manipulate the visuals based on that. Cool. Okay, well, I think we have 5 minutes. Yeah, if there's any more questions, I'm around, but thank you all so much for coming, and hope to see you the rest of the day, because there's tons of really cool programming happening. Thanks.